From my terrace, amidst cypresses and the smell of damp earth, I saw him almost every afternoon. Him, absorbed in his luminous screen, oblivious to the spectacle of the sun dyeing the infinite vineyards of Tuscany gold. A programmer, they had told me. What a waste of a sunset. Me, Elena, newly arrived in this haven of peace, or so I tried to believe. I was running from something, I suppose we all are. And he, Marco, seemed so anchored to his digital routine. I could almost hear the typing from my side of the invisible fence that separated us. His house was modern, straight lines contrasting with the ancient stone of mine. A clash of worlds, like the two of us. Him, logic and code. Me, well, I was more into improvised chapters and open endings. I wondered if he had any bugs in his system. The first time we exchanged more than a glance was due to a stray drone. His drone. It landed, or rather crashed clumsily, in my garden, right next to my newly planted rose bushes. It almost gave me a heart attack, considering how much they cost me. He came out of his digital fortress, somewhat hurried. Tall, taller than he seemed sitting down. Dark messy hair, intense green eyes, and a 3-day stubble that, I admit, gave him an interesting air. He wore a gray t-shirt that outlined well-worked shoulders. "Excuse me, I think this is yours," I said, pointing to the device with my chin. I tried to sound casual, but my voice came out a little more syrupy than planned. "Oops," he smiled, a shy smile that lit up his face. "1,000 apologies," he said, bending down to pick up his flying toy. "I was testing a new flight algorithm, it clearly needs adjustments." His voice was deep, pleasant. I noticed his hands, large, long fingers. Pianist's hands, or a programmer's. "Algorithms. Sounds complicated," I replied, leaning on the small garden trowel. "I even get mixed up with the tiramisu recipe." A lie, of course. I'm wickedly good at it. But I wanted to see his reaction, if he caught the hint. He laughed, this time more heartily. "Well, the logic of tiramisu also has its complexities. Layers, balance, like in code." I liked that comparison. Maybe he wasn't as rigid as I thought. Or maybe he knew how to play the game. To make up for the scare, "Would you like a coffee? Or better yet, a glass of local wine? I have a Chianti that's sensational, and good for failed algorithms." His proposal surprised me, straight to the point, or almost. "A Chianti sounds dangerous," I replied, smiling openly. "I accept. But let it be known that my rose bushes expect a formal apology." I crossed my arms, feigning severity. The game had begun. His terrace was minimalist, but with breathtaking views. The vineyard stretched out like a green, orderly carpet to the horizon. He served the wine in large glasses, the dark red liquid glistening in the sun. We sat in low, comfortable armchairs. The initial silence wasn't awkward, it was filled with possibilities. I observed his profile as he looked at the landscape. He had a strong, defined jawline. Attractive, I couldn't deny it. "So, a programmer in paradise?" I broke the ice. "Or is paradise just the wallpaper while you work?" I wanted to know more, to scratch beneath that calm surface. He turned his head, his green eyes meeting mine. There was something in his gaze, an unexpected depth. A bit of both. I try to find balance. Sometimes, code is simpler than real life. "Real life has better views," I replied, raising my glass towards the horizon. "And more intense flavors." I held his gaze, letting the word hang in the air between us. A slight smile curved his lips. "Depends on what flavors you're looking for." Okay, he caught the hints. And returned them. This was getting interesting. The Chianti was starting to work its magic, or maybe it was the company. We talked for hours. About his work, yes, but also about travel, books, broken dreams, and new beginnings. I discovered an intelligent man, with an ironic sense of humor and a sensitivity hidden beneath layers of logic. He told me he was here to finish an important project, but also to disconnect from a complicated relationship in Milan. Ah, there was the bug. An ex. Or maybe not so ex. I was vaguer about my motives. I needed a change of scenery, I simply said. Too much noise in my previous life. I let him fill in the blanks, let him imagine my mystery. When the sun had completely set and the stars began to sprinkle the sky, a shiver ran down my spine. It wasn't just the cool night air. It was the tension between us, palpable as the humidity in the air. "It's getting late," Marco said, although neither of us seemed to want to move. His gaze lingered on my lips for an instant. Or maybe I imagined it. "Yes, I should go," I replied, my voice a whisper. I stood up slowly, aware of his gaze following me. "Thanks for the wine, and the technical chat about tiramisu." He walked me to the edge of our properties, that undefined space between his world and mine. The moon faintly illuminated the path. The air smelled of night jasmine. We stopped. The distance between us was minimal. I could feel the warmth radiating from his body. "Good night, Elena," he said, his voice deeper than before. "Good night, Marco." I didn't move. I wanted to see what would happen. If he would take another step, if he would break that invisible barrier. A part of me desperately wanted him to. He raised a hand, slowly, as if afraid of startling me. He brushed my cheek with the back of his fingers. An electric, unexpected touch. I held my breath. His green eyes searched mine in the dim light. I saw desire, yes, but also doubt. That damned ex from Milan, surely. Or maybe my own mystery held him back. He withdrew his hand just as slowly. "Rest well," he murmured. And he turned, walking towards his modern house, leaving me alone with the scent of jasmine and my rapidly beating heart. I barely slept that night. I tossed and turned in bed, replaying his touch, his gaze. Had I done the right thing by being so accessible? Or should I have kept more distance? The next morning, I avoided looking towards his house. I focused on my rose bushes, on the strong coffee, on the book I was halfway through. But my internal radar was alert, waiting for any sign. The sign came at noon. A message on my phone, unknown number. The Chianti algorithm worked. "Repeat experiment tonight? My rose bushes also apologize." I smiled. "Experiment accepted," I replied. "But this time, I choose the wine. And the place. My terrace, at sunset. Bring your best conversation algorithm." I wanted control. Or at least, the illusion of it. I prepared the terrace carefully. Candles, comfortable cushions, a bottle of Vernaccia di San Gimignano chilling. I put on a light, terracotta-colored dress that left my shoulders bare. Subtle, but effective. He arrived punctually. He brought a small potted plant. "A peace offering for your rose bushes," he said, handing it to me. His green eyes sparkled when he saw me. Approval. "Good." "Accepted," I said, taking the plant. Our fingers brushed. That electric current again. Was it just me, or did he feel it too? His breath seemed to catch for a second. This time the conversation flowed more easily. We talked about the peculiarities of living in Tuscany, about the neighbors, few and discreet, about the almost absolute silence at night. A silence that invited filling. I asked him about his ex. Carefully, of course. "It's complicated," he admitted. "We have a long history. Sometimes it's hard to close doors, even when you know you should." His gaze drifted off into the vineyard. "Closed doors sometimes have open windows," I suggested, pouring more wine. or cracks through which light, or temptation, can seep. I offered him the glass, brushing his fingers intentionally. He took the glass, his eyes fixed on mine. "You're dangerous, Elena." It wasn't a question. It was a statement. And I loved it. "I just like exploring boundaries," I replied, moving my chair a little closer to his. "The boundaries of the landscape, of conversation, of everything." The sky had turned deep purples and blues. The candles flickered, creating dancing shadows on our faces. The white wine had been replaced by silence, charged with electricity. This time it was he who raised his hand. Not towards my cheek, but towards a lock of hair that had escaped onto my bare shoulder. He tucked it away with infinite gentleness. His touch on my skin sent a wave of heat through my entire body. I closed my eyes for an instant, savoring the sensation. When I opened them, his face was inches from mine. "Elena," his voice was a hoarse whisper. I could smell his cologne, a mix of sandalwood and something else, something uniquely his. Addictive. I didn't respond with words. I tilted my head slightly, a tacit permission. An invitation. The world shrank to that tiny space between our lips. And then, just when the tension was unbearable, his phone rang. A shrill sound that broke the spell. I internally cursed the device and whoever was on the other end. He looked at the screen. His expression changed. He tensed up. "I have to take this," he said, in a tone that brooked no argument. He stood up and walked a few steps away, turning his back to me. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but his body language said it all. Tension, conflict. It was surely her, the one from Milan, the door that wasn't completely closed. When he hung up, he took a moment before turning back to me. His face was a mask, difficult to read. "I'm sorry, Elena. It was important." "Don't worry," I said, trying to sound indifferent, although I felt a pang of disappointment? Or was it relief? Important things first, of course. The atmosphere had changed. The magic had evaporated, leaving an uncomfortable residue. "I think it's time for me to go now," he said, this time without hesitation. I didn't walk him out this time. I remained seated, watching his figure recede into the darkness. The plant he had brought me seemed like a silent mockery. I poured myself another glass of wine. Alone, watching the stars. What did I expect? A summer romance under the Tuscan sun? Maybe running away didn't mean finding something new, but repeating old patterns. The following days were strange. We sometimes crossed paths on the road, a tense greeting, a fleeting glance. His laptop screen became his main companion again. And I became the silent observer once more. But something had changed. It wasn't just curiosity I felt when looking at him anymore. There was a memory of that electricity, of that interrupted possibility. A question hanging in the air. What if the phone hadn't rung? One afternoon, while walking through the vineyards, I found him sitting under an olive tree, notebook in hand, but not writing. He was staring at the horizon with the same lost expression I saw that night. I hesitated whether to approach, to break that invisible barrier we had rebuilt again. But his slumped shoulders, his vulnerable air, urged me to do it. "Am I interrupting a complex algorithm?" I asked softly, stopping a few steps away from him. I used his own language, hoping it would work like a key. He looked up, surprised. A shadow of a smile appeared on his lips. "The algorithm of life, rather. And it's full of bugs today." He gestured for me to sit down. I sat down beside him, on the dry grass. The sun was beginning to set, tinting the clouds pink. "Want to debug it?" I offered, half joking, half serious. He sighed. "I wish it were as easy as finding a forgotten semicolon." He looked at his empty notebook. "I broke up with her. Definitely. Over the phone. Classy, right? Sometimes, distance is the only way to make a clean break, I said, remembering my own escapes. The important thing is that you did it. You closed that door. He nodded, but his gaze remained troubled. Yes, but what now? This silence, this calm, sometimes it's scarier than the noise. He looked at me. Doesn't that happen to you? All the time, I admitted. That's why I came here. Looking for a different kind of silence. One that I could fill myself, in my own way. We fell silent again, but this time it was different. It was a shared, complicit silence. The sun sank behind the hills, leaving an orange afterglow. Thank you, Elena, he said, finally. His voice sounded clearer. For listening to the debugging. Anytime, I replied. I stood up, brushing the grass off my dress. Consultancy has a price, of course. Another Chianti, perhaps. I winked at him. He laughed, a genuine laugh this time. He stood up too. Deal. But this time, no interruptions. His gaze was intense, a silent promise. We walked back towards the houses, slowly, under the starry sky that was beginning to unfold. The tension had returned, but it was different now. More solid, less fragile. At the boundary, we stopped again. Same place, different energy. He raised his hand and caressed my cheek, like the first time, but now without hesitation. I don't know what you're looking for here, Elena, he whispered. I don't know if I'm what you need. But... Shish, I interrupted him, placing a finger on his lips. Don't spoil it with logic. Sometimes, you just have to feel the code. And this time, it was I who closed the distance. It was I who sought his lips. A slow, exploratory kiss at first, under the Tuscan stars. A new algorithm was beginning to run. The forgotten taste of Chianti mixed with the promise of Vernaccia. The code compiled perfectly, without errors, without interruptions. Only the sound of the night and 2 breaths sinking. The rest is another story.